Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We will begin in just a moment. We're going to allow everyone to join, and then we'll be right with you. All right, the numbers are climbing, which is a wonderful thing. So hello and welcome, everyone. We're so glad you could join us for today's webinar, HelloData, a smarter approach to multifamily performance and analytics. I'm Stephanie Anderson, and on behalf of the Grace Hill team, I want to thank you for spending part of your day with us today. Whether you're here to streamline your reporting, uncover hidden insights, or you really just want a better way to make data-driven decisions, you're really in the right place. So today we are going to show you how HelloData is changing the game when it comes to multifamily analytics. Now I'm thrilled to introduce the person who is leading the charge behind this innovation. Marc Rutzen is the EVP here at Grace Hill, but most importantly, he is a co-founder of HelloData. Marc is a recognized leader in real estate tech with a passion for using data to solve real-world challenges in multifamily. So today he's going to walk us through a live demo, show off some of the most powerful features, and explain how this tool is already helping teams drive results across their entire portfolio. So without further ado, Marc, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks everyone for joining. So high level on the platform, I'm just going to share my screen and I'm going to jump right in and kind of show you how it works. And then I'll talk through it kind of as I go here. So what we do, the platform is designed to automate market surveys and deal analysis for multifamily deals specifically. So we go to well over 250,000 individual property websites straight to that leasing page every single day, as well as several listing sites so that we capture the entirety of the market. And we update every single day so that we catch the last price and the concession that was active when each and every unit is taken down, when it leaves the market. We have found that this price, the last price on the day the listing is removed, more than 96% of the time is the exact number that ends up on the rent roll. So by tracking this data for about 5 million assets, 35 million units nationwide, we're able to tabulate that data in real time, serve up with just a property name or address your most relevant rent comps. We'll survey their rents, concessions, and amenities in very granular detail down to the unit level. And then we'll recommend where you should price your units based on real-time market activity. So I'll show you how it works with a property that I know in Chicago, this 111 property. It's from one of a client of ours, Bizzuto, really high-end Class A downtown property here. Now, when you first pull it up, any property in the platform, like you saw, just type the property name. You could also type the address. It's going to show some high-level average rents over the last 30 days, number of stories, units, and year built. And we'll show, since it's all public data, right, straight from property websites and listing sites, we can't see behind the scenes. Like if you have some offline units or something and they're not advertised on the site, we're going to assume they're occupied. So when we calculate lease percent and exposure, we're comparing that to the number of units. We're comparing the number of units that are currently being advertised to the unit count of the building. So I like to point that out because sometimes people think that we have like their true occupancy data. Can't get that from public data. That would potentially run afoul of antitrust. So we don't do that. All public data. But the big thing that we do to the data and the AI part of HelloData.ai is that we're actually using artificial intelligence to extract some really detailed information on the data we collect and the properties we analyze. One of the things we do here is this quality score that we've developed to analyze the listing photos. As we're collecting rent and availability data, we're also analyzing listing photos, assessing the condition and quality of each room and common area on an objective 1 to 10 scale, and using that to recommend comps that are similar, not just in year built, unit count, and proximity, but that actually have a similar look and feel, similar condition and quality to the subject too. So here you can see we'll recommend 10 comps by default. And these comps we're recommending based on several criteria. So we're looking at the submarket down to the census tract level, making sure that the people and properties around each asset are also similar, not just the property itself. Physical distance, which will vary based on the market type and density. So if you're in a dense downtown market like this, you shouldn't go, 10 miles to pick your next comp. Everyone kind of understands this. But in the suburbs, you can go several miles and it will still be comparable. So we scale that distance penalty based on the market density. Number of units, vintage, story is kind of table stakes for comps. We'll also gauge the overlap of the unit mix, so the types, the square footage, the proportion of units of each type in the building. But the quality that we extract from the photos, and the overlap of about 200 different amenities that we extract from both the photos and the listing descriptions, that gets us that resident side of the equation, right? Similar look and feel, similar product offering overall. And that's why we have a very high degree of overlap with what our users select in the platform. 9 out of 10 times, we're going to recommend the exact comps that our users will leverage in their reports. But they are just recommendation. So if you see a property that you're like, North Water, that doesn't feel like a good comp. I know this one, I've walked it, it's not comparable. You can always take it out. If you want to add a comp, you just type it in like you did with the subject property. And if you pick a 20s vintage deal that's 6 miles away in a dense downtown market, we're just going to tell you it's probably not that similar. Might not be your best comp. But you're free to add whatever you want, and a lot of people will just type in the comps that they want. Now, two things I'll point out before I go ahead and generate this report. Um, there are settings on the comps. So you can constrain the radius, the unit count, the year built, and we will recommend comps within the parameters you set. But because we have this computer vision model analyzing these listing photos every day, we're also able to source your value add comps. We basically turn that model in reverse and look for the next level up in finish quality. So these are nice, pretty new assets, Class A, high-end properties. But if you're looking at something that's a bit older and you want to see what would my rents look like if I were to raise the level of finish to my post-renovation comps, this feature will allow you to pull that post-renovation comp set in and really see where rents will be if you were to renovate to that finish level and what you would need to do to compete with those assets. And then finally, really convenient feature, the email notifications. This will just send you updated rent availability and concessions data to everyone on your team without you having to create a new report every time or really do anything. You create this report one time and it will send you email updates until you tell it to stop every week right in your inbox. So it's a nice way to not have to log into yet another platform every day. Now, as you scroll down the page, once the report's generated here, I think what people really value about the platform is the level of detail that you can reach in just a few clicks. So here we're looking at the rents by unit type table, and this is going to include data on each property. So your build, number of leased units over the time frame selected, and you can change the time frame to last 2 weeks, the last week, today, last year, all the way back to June of 23 very easily. Let's say we're looking at the last 30 days here. This is going to show you for the property the number of units leased over that time frame, current active listings on the property website, average time on market, square footage, rent, and effective rent. But here it's by unit type. So if you drop this down, you'll be able to see the breakdown of bed and bath count on the left and detailed data for each of those different unit types. Now these are filterable up top, just like the time frame was. If I come up here, I can look at only the one beds across the report, only the two beds, only specifically the 2 bed, 2 bath units if I want to. Um, but where we really shine is here is by unit type. A lot of platforms provide by unit type. We take it a step further and we'll actually show the individual floor plans within that unit type. So what did leasing activity look like for each and every floor plan within the 1 bed, 1 bath unit type in Mila? And for each of them, if I want to see like, okay, they did 2 of the junior 1As and they have 18 active right now. what's the deal with that? Why do they have so many active? Why did they only lease two? I can click on this and see the specific two units that left the property website during that time frame. So these two units, we see that they were on the market for 96 days and 76 respectively. The 1812 unit was vacant for 69 days, meaning the availability date where someone could move in had passed, so it was sitting vacant. The prices changed -3.2% during the time they were on the market in terms of effective rent. So they started at a higher price and ended lower. And if I click into these, it will show me the full data on this floor plan, when it became available, when it leased, time on market, even applications and cancellations. So looking at times where the unit disappeared from the website temporarily and then quickly returned. We'll count that as an application, and then we don't know why something fell through. We just know they didn't end up signing a lease because it's back on the site a week later. So we'll count that as an application and a cancel. And then we'll track the price trend the entire time this unit is on the market, all the way through to the last price on the day the listing was removed. And it looks like this one was 713 was the last time we saw it at a price of 27.95. And during that time, in the last week there, before it left the market, they put a concession in place. So that banner on the property website, as you guys are going and surveying data from property websites and calling around for data, um, you know, you're probably looking at that banner to see what specials they're offering. We're doing the same thing. So we'll take the banner from the front of the website, we'll analyze it with AI, and we'll apply it only to the specific unit types that it's supposed to apply to, and just that discount, right? And that's how we calculate that effective rent number that you see. So we do this for each and every property, every single unit in the platform. That's why you can drill down into such detail and see all this information on each individual floor plan. Now, for a lot of them, if they're advertising a lot of unit level amenities, we'll be able to pick that up from the leasing page of the property website or from the floor plan image itself. So AI is amazing. If you see that someone's tagged it as being a corner unit, having a balcony or patio, that's all well and good, but a lot of times people don't mention those things in the listing description or the unit level amenities. So in those cases, we'll actually still pick it up because we'll analyze the floor plan. And just like you or I can see, there's a rectangle jutting out from one side of the floor plan. That's probably a balcony. Or, there's glazing on two sides of the unit that is probably a corner unit. We can pick that up too from the floor plan image using AI, and we populate those amenities here. And finally here, very important, lease terms and respective pricing. So for any units that are advertising different lease terms and different pricing associated with them, we're going to track the best priced lease term option. In this case, it's the 12 to 15. They're all priced the same. And that is the option we're going to track in the chart below. And we allow you not just to see it for one individual unit, but if you want to, you can go filter by this across the report. So all the rents you're looking at could be the 18-month or the 19-month. If you want a true apples to apples comparison, this offers a really effective way to get to it. And this is data that you don't usually see in other market analysis platforms. So I covered the rents by unit type. Scrolling down from there, we've got a nice property ranking table that we just recently added that will show where you sit relative to your comps in terms of rent on a host of different dimensions. So you can do asking, you can do effective, you can do per square foot. And for each of these, it will vary over the time frame you select, right? So you can kind of gauge how you're performing relative to the market over time. And it will vary based on the lease terms, the listing status, the amenities that are present. One thing to point out here, because we're doing that unlocking of amenities from the floor plan images, from the listing descriptions, we can actually sort or filter, I should say, the data by only the corner units or only the ones that have a balcony or patio and see apples to apples for all the comps that have those amenities being advertised. How are you performing relative to them? This really comes into play with renovated units. I'll take a quick undo that. I'll take a quick detour over here to the unit level insights and show you that if you're looking at this, say you widen the time frame to like 3 months back, you're doing a 3 month look back. Over that time, we've seen over 1,000 listings across this comp set. I can come in here and say I only want to look at renovated units, those that are tagged as renovated on the property website. And this will show me my average rents for all the comps across the entire comp set, including the subject property, for only the units that are tagged as renovated that were on the market during that time frame. So you can see how this could be really helpful in honing amenity premiums. If I want to look at just the ones with a balcony or patio and compare the subject to the comps, just the ones that are a corner unit, just those that have been renovated, I can easily do that. I can even look at ones that have not been renovated and tag just those units. So it's a really robust system, and all that we unlock from the unit level data really helps in driving those decisions on how to price individual units or how much you could potentially earn in a value add. Well, I'll jump back over to the rent comps tab here, scroll down a bit more. So we showed the property rankings. One thing that we do with the data that's really interesting and helpful for acquisitions, when you're doing a potential acquisition, you get a rent roll for the deal that you're analyzing, but you don't get it for every other deal, right? Like you don't get the same level of detail on your comp set as you get on the subject property. Makes perfect sense. Why would they give you their rent rolls? We have found that we can actually create a synthetic rent roll with a very high degree of accuracy, 96% match with the effective rents on actual rent rolls by just tabulating what is leaving the websites, these property websites, every single day. Now, how we do this, we'll look at how many listings have we seen associated with the 3-bed, 3-bath floor plan out of all 330 listings we've seen for this property. And we'll take that ratio, the 66 over 330, multiplied by 505, and then we'll get to the distribution of units in that property, right? The listing distribution, very representative of the unit distribution. So we craft this unit mix at a high level and show exposure, renewal rates by floor plan, looking at units that left the market last year and have not reappeared this year, implying they renewed. We'll look at time on market, apps versus cancellations, again, looking at units that left the market and returned shortly after, implying there was a cancel, and then their rent and effective rent, as well as over to the right, the lease trade out per floor plan, right? So here we're looking at the pricing trend overall, and here we're looking at the trade out. Same units that left the market last year, when they reappear this year, we're comparing the rents to get kind of same store sales for each of these properties. Now, why we call it the rent roll, when you drop this down, we'll actually show the lease dates of each unit, the last price that we observed on that day when the listing was taken down, and given the concessions that were active at the time, what was the effective rent of that unit? And you can drill down into any one of them and see that full price trend. And this one, it looks like actually declined quite a bit during the time it was on the market and ended up at 2028 here with the concessions tabulated below and then the effective rent calculated for you. So for acquisitions teams, being able to see this same level of detail for every unit or every property that you consider a comp, super valuable. And all this can be downloaded into Excel to do more in-depth analysis. Last thing I'll cover here, I think is really important for property managers and asset managers who are tracking, how the market is performing, what does leasing activity look like. In this chart, what we're showing here is how many units have left the property website, implying they leased. And you could look at new units that enter the site each week, and you can look at units that left the site each week. But how many units have left the property website each week by type up top? So implying that 11 2-beds left the market last week across this comp set. So we assume those units lease, and we give you a sense of that distribution by unit type with the ability to click into any of these and see the underlying unit data. If you scroll down here, you'll see the exact units that left the market. And then below that, we'll show it broken down by property. So showing over the last, okay, I picked a 3-month look back period here. Over the last 3 months, this is how many units have been leaving 111's website each week. On average, 4.2, in total, 59 over that period. And here's how that compares to all the other comps in my analysis. So just a really good way to see their leasing activity day over day, week over week, and then be able to click on these units and see the specific units that leased in that week. It's a level of transparency that people aren't used to. You know, if you do like call arounds, you're getting, oh, we signed 5 leases this week. You don't get much of a breakdown. This gives you a full breakdown, full transparency into what's happening in real time. So we have a bunch of different charts and graphs. We got nice historical rent trends, exposure charts that are useful for lease ups. But I will point out that we do show the data in a side-by-side view, the more traditional market survey view. And this is customizable. So if you want to go in here and add or remove parameters, you can easily do that. Um, we'll show it broken down by unit type below this. So if you want to get very detailed, we have a ton of great metrics you can add for each individual unit type. And below that, one of the things we do with the data to just make it so that there's no guesswork when you're having these conversations on, you know, is the market going down or is the market going up? In our, how are we performing relative to the market? Is it a performance issue with our property, or is it the general market that's in decline? A lot of these conversations can be pretty tense between owners and managers. So what we do is we put together this market alerts panel that will look at key metrics by unit type and compare the last 30 days, subject, property versus market, and the last 7 days. And we'll note any significant changes between the subject property and the comp set. Like if the subject really increases rent over the last few weeks and the market stays flat, well, that's something to note, right? Or if the whole market goes down and you go down at the same time, well, then it's not really likely a performance issue at the property, it's the entire market declined. And so what we do here is we put in plain text. The average asking rent for the one beds increased slightly over the last 7 days, while the overall market was stable over that period. Um, or the average number of days on the market for one beds decreased considerably, right? So here we're seeing a subject property where they're flying off the shelves. Average time on market is decreasing while the comp set increased, and they're increasing their price at the same time. So I'd say, you know, I don't know much about this deal in particular, but first glance, they're doing a great job leasing their one beds. You can probably imagine how this could be very helpful when you're having those pricing conversations, like where should we set price, to know real time how you're comparing relative to the market. It takes out the guesswork. It's not, we might be performing worse here, we might be performing better here. It's here's what the market's doing, here's what we're doing, and here are the areas to dig into further. Another area where you can gauge performance like that is looking at the review analysis. Now, what we do here, this is another way we use machine learning and artificial intelligence. We will analyze all the public reviews for these assets, each and every one of them. As reviews hit Google or listing sites or other public sources, we're tabulating those reviews and not just showing the overall rating, which you can see here. These guys are 4.7 out of 5, but we're digging in deeper. What is mentioned in those reviews? So here, there are 106 mentions of location, 97.2% positive. So people saying a positive thing about proximity to amenities, local shops, restaurants. I mean, it's smack dab in the middle of the city. It should do pretty well there. Um, Staff and management, 94.7% positive. But there were 11 negative mentions, right? So that could be an opportunity for improvement. So these are ways to qualify. You know, it's not just a number of reviews and an average score. Where are there opportunities for improvement? And I could use this and easily dig in to the detail behind each category. So all of this detail that we go into is really in the service of producing pricing recommendations. So a lot of good charts and graphs and visualizations, all downloadable. But what we're really using it for is to recommend where should you price based on real-time market activity. So if I look at this pricing recommendations chart, I've got a recommended rent over to the right. I've got the per square foot value, which is useful when people are running a new development analysis, and I can show you that in a minute. We can model a ground up development based on parameters you put in and actually generate a full market survey and year one financial analysis for it. So that's pretty cool. I'll show you that in a sec. But looking at the recommendations here, we really approach this very similar to how an appraiser would look at valuing an asset. But instead of looking at similar properties that sold recently, we're looking at similar units that leased recently. So high similarity at the unit level, recently left the market or actively listed today, and capturing their last rent and rent per square foot. And then we just do a blended average of these three columns to come up with today's market rent. So it's not, as you can imagine, a full revenue management solution. It's not taking into account your exposure and your lease expirations. But what it's doing is it's benchmarking in real time to the market as new listings hit the market, as new listings leave the market. It's picking up the most similar, it's picking up their price, and it's computing an average price across those supporting units to tell you what the real market rent is at any given point in time. So a lot of people, our biggest clients, use this alongside LRO or YieldStar or whatever system they use for that market context in their pricing calls. It gives them a lot of transparent data to be able to dig in and say, hey, you know what, I think that recommendation's a little bit too high based on what's going on in the market. HelloData is saying it's a little bit lower. That's where things are actually moving. I think we're going to set the price maybe somewhere in the middle between the too high output and what we're saying and see what happens there. There's really good ammo for those pricing calls. Now, last couple tabs here, we do capture data on fees and amenities. So here we'll show application, admin, storage, etc. Just give you a benchmark relative to your comp set and see where there's potential upside. A lot of demos I've done, I've seen people are actually undercharging for application or admin fees. And post demo, they're like, yeah, I was able to increase it because that's what their comps are doing. We'll chart historical concessions. So this will be based on the time frame you select. You could go back all the way to June of 23 when we started collecting data if you want to expand that. And then we'll analyze the finishes. This is the output of our computer vision model, analyzing the unit interiors from the photos, as well as 200 different amenities at the building and unit level that you could compare side by side in a grid. So people do like quarterly amenity surveys to see how they're positioned relative to their comps. This is a much more streamlined way to do it. You don't have to manually tabulate that data. You can just download it straight from the platform. Now, the last big thing I'll show you here, if you head to the financial analysis tab, what we do here is we capture public financial reporting data. So from like CMBS, from HUD, from GSE finance loan data. It's hard to cobble together and map charts of accounts and remove outliers and really clean the data. But once we do that, we get a really powerful training set. We combine that set with our property and rent data, and we train a machine learning model to underwrite this property just like a human being would, controlling for the fact that, you know, this is a high-rise deal, it's 505 units, it's going to have a different expense profile from a property that is garden style out in the suburbs. And so for each line item, we'll show a lower estimate, an upper estimate, and an average, and then we'll break down the most important factors that the model considered in delivering this particular prediction, the why behind it. Ultimately, we get to NOI with under 10% median error with only a property name or address. All I did was type in 111, and I have this analysis instantly produced for me. So for acquisitions teams who are trying to evaluate deals faster, this really accelerates deal screening times. You know, I never tell people, oh, it's perfect, we got a prediction, just slap that in an LOI, like throw a cap rate on it, send your LOI out. You're going to underwrite the deal, you're going to do a full analysis, but we make that a lot easier to do by coupling it with a really robust Excel export. And I'll show you the export here as it loads in a sec, but I'll note that we also do have a customizable PDF export. So if you do want to share this out to collaborators, owners, managers, whoever you work with, you can pick and choose what's included, and you could send them a detailed report mirroring the interface. So grabbing that export always opens on my other tab or my other screen here. I'll pull that over. In this export, we're going to show weekly market updates. So this is similar to the email that goes out each week with updates on the comp set. It'll show how many units leased, their average rents, new listings and their average rents, and then active listings and exposure across the board. We'll show 30-day trend analysis, comparing the subject property to the average of the comps, and then breaking it down by unit type in these charts below. The data analysis tab, really robust. This is going to include everything that is leased over the entire time frame we've analyzed back to June of 23. So if I want to say look at the entire year of 2024, this will show me asking and effective rent trends, leasing velocity, time on market, the breakdown across that time frame, whatever time frame I select, on asking versus effective rent averages, and then a full breakdown below, sorting by property, unit type, and floor plan. So this is data that, if you were tabulating this yourself, this would take a long time to put together. You could do it, it just takes a long time. Leasing trends will show month over month, week over week, how these things are leasing. Rent comps will show raw data over the 30, 60, and 90-day timeframes, and a comparison of the subject property to the market on each dimension. Side-by-side view of the same data, the rent comparison table. All the raw unit level data, and this is data on, at this point, 3,400 listings, right? This is what powers most of the report. And we use that data in this unit mix tab to show you for every property, so that we'll have the property, the unit type, or the floor plan, I should say, the unit type info, the lease rents. So this is synonymous with that estimated rent roll in our platform, looking at all rents for all unit types across time, versus the active listings that are right now being advertised on the website. So you can kind of see your loss to lease if you compare active to the rent roll. Then you have 30, 60, and 90-day look backs, and these are editable. So if you want to look over a broader time frame, you could. This will show you what has left the website over whatever time frame you're analyzing. You could break this down by chunk rent or per square foot, so you can get pretty detailed. But what's great about this, because we're controlling for the property, the floor plan, the unit type, it's a true apples to apples comparison. If you go over here to the value add amenity analysis and say you want to look at just corner units, only the ones that are corner units across the comp set, this is going to show you what has been tagged with corner unit as an attribute, or we detected from the floor plan image, versus what has not been tagged with that attribute. And you could see the delta in terms of the rents they generate over to the right, as well as a percentage difference. So if you're trying to understand amenity premiums, like what's the premium for being a corner unit versus not, or having a balcony versus not, or being renovated versus classic unit, this will show you the differentials for each and every one of those units and give you a sense of what those premiums are for each amenity. We do take the reviews analysis over to this tab as well, so you can see that full breakdown for positive versus negative mentions for each of the attributes you saw on the platform. So location, amenities, staff, maintenance, and value. This is how people are actually rating these properties in each category on Google, on listing sites. We're just compiling all that data so you can see, where are we doing well versus the comps, and where are the comps doing well on particular attributes? Where's there opportunity for improvement? There's always something you can improve. This makes it a lot easier to drill down to that information. We'll also tabulate the fees and amenities. So just like you saw on the platform, this is all included here. Specials, you got all the historical data. And then we wrap it together with this financial analysis, which mirrors that year one analysis you saw on the platform, and a full pro forma model that will export this in such a way that you can play around with the assumptions. Say you want to do an 8-year hold, or you want to do cash out refi after 48 months versus 36. It'll flow through the whole model and show you detailed breakdown of the NOI, the cash flow, levered and unlevered, and the full investor waterfall structure where you can play around with returns, play around with catch-ups. Yeah, I had to dig deep back to my analyst days to remember how to do a proper waterfall structure. But I think we've come up with a really clean and usable model here. So acquisitions teams really love this. Property managers love it too, because they'll take this to owners, and the owner's like, wow, that's a really sophisticated analysis you put together. And they do it in minutes, right? They just log in, type in a property, export, and they've got this full analysis built for them. So that is essentially the template and the platform. The last thing I'll show, because I mentioned it before, is this new development analysis. So the way this works, if I put in a property name or address, well, in this case, an address because it's using Google search there. Say I want to do a new development on this site. I can type in, a plot of land. I could type in like the a single family home next to a plot that I want to develop. Anything with an address, I can just type in here. Say I want to do 300 units. I want to deliver this in 2027, and it's going to be, a 16-story building here. What this will do is it's actually going out and finding new construction properties around this location that are similar in terms of number of units, year built, and stories. So similar new construction properties. It's finding the most similar 50 properties and surveying all of their units. And then it's recommending a unit mix based on the typical distribution of units in these new construction properties. With that, it's calculating an average rent across those, or an average square footage, I should say, and an average rent across those 50 properties pulled in as kind of high level comps, such that you can use our recommended unit mix to get a quick sense of what should be built on that piece of land. You can also, it's pretty flexible. So if you already have like a development planned out and you have your unit mix, you can upload that template here and we'll parse out all the units and build the full analysis for you. So if, you can always type in floor plans here, add different floor plans. But, to do that for some of these developments, maybe it's 30 floor plans. You don't want to sit here and type it in all day. You can use the CSV import to do that automatically. But with that, we'll recommend the amenities that are most frequent in the market for similar properties. You could use our recommendations. You can get more detailed on it and exclude or include as needed. When you save this, it will do a full ground up development analysis, full market survey, recommend your most relevant comps, survey their rents, and then recommend pricing for this for every unit in this property. So here you'll see over to the right, the recommended rent for the studios. If I scroll over, recommended rent for the ones, and recommended rent for the twos. And just like we did before, if I drop this down, it's going to pull supporting units that are similar in terms of amenities, square footage, similar, competing for similar demand essentially in the market. It's going to pull their most recent lease date, the last asking rent, and rent per square foot, and come up with that true market rent today. So when you're deciding what should I do, should we develop a property in this piece of land, or is this a better investment area versus this? You can easily generate reports for each and view them in the platform and get a real sense of if this property existed today, what would rents look like? And that's pulled through all the way to this financial analysis tab where you can get a sense of year one operations as if this property existed and was stabilized today. So that's pretty much the platform. I know there were some questions that came in, which I'm happy to answer here. I saw a little bit in the chats. if the Grace Hill team has been answering them. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm happy to answer if anyone's able to raise their hand and ask questions at this point. All right. Well, maybe it's a one way. Maybe people can't ask questions, but oh, there we go. I see the chat here. Hold on, let me open this up. I got plenty here. So okay. Let me go back to the beginning. Uh Thanks everyone for joining. Let's see. Looking for some questions here. A lot of good vibes. Can you just look at market rate properties? Yes. So you can filter. We detect affordable units and affordable properties by looking at unit level amenities. So a lot of times, if they tag like the Arch program in Seattle or the ARO program in Chicago, or they mention 60% AMI in the floor plan name or the listing description, we'll detect that as an affordable unit. And even if they don't mention it, we reference the HUD LIHTC database to see pure purpose-built affordable housing, and we'll tag that in the platform. And you can filter those out either through the editing of the report to select comps. So here, let me show that setting here. If you want only affordable or you want to exclude affordable, you can do that here. And if you want to filter by amenity, a lot of times if there are affordable units in the mix here, we'll include an amenity for you to filter in or out those affordable units. In this case, it's brand new construction hypothetical development here, so we don't have much affordable in the mix. But if you do have affordable units across your comp set, they'll be filterable here. Let's see, what else do we have? Data does go back to 2023 to answer Alex's question. So it's June 17th of 23 was when we launched the platform, so it goes back to then. Um, do we work with any student housing operators? Yes, we have several of the largest student housing developers, owners, and investors in the country on our platform. And we have the largest, second largest, and third largest using it across their portfolios. Many more that are smaller are using it. It may be that they use it on via API because we have all the data is available to bring into Power BI, your data warehouse. Not all of them use the interface because it's more geared toward conventional multifamily. Like for student, you're not going to see the breakdowns of like actual leased units because they typically advertise at the floor plan level. So the interface not as helpful for student. But the data itself on what their rents are every single day and their concessions, very valuable. And a lot of these groups will pull it in via API to Power BI or their data warehouse. Let's see. Yep. Okay. I think and will it be accessible through Performance HQ? We're brainstorming on it. So someone asked, will HelloData become accessible through Performance HQ? We're going through the process right now of seeing how we can integrate the data. So yes, coming soon. It may be that there's some high level data there, and then you can dig in deeper if you need to in HelloData. But we're looking at ways to better combine Grace Hill and HelloData offerings. Um, since I mentioned the API thing, I'll share one other thing real quick. We do have all this data is available to pull in wherever you want via API or the query builder here. And the query builder, what this will do is, I can go say I want to pull average rents by zip code across the country. I can actually build a report, adding custom columns and filters here. So say it's going to by default apply to like just one city, but I can come in here and build essentially a report from scratch, adding whatever columns I want, whatever data that I want to display. And say I want to add like some market level stuff. I want city, MSA, property level stuff. I want the number of units, building name. Maybe I want to plot it on a map, so I'll add lat long coordinates. detailed information, all the same stuff you see in the general platform here. And then here, maybe I want to do like monthly average rents. Well, if I generate this report, this is actually going to query all the properties that meet the parameters that I specified, just in the city of Chicago here, but I can open this up to anywhere. And I could download a CSV with the average rents week over week or month over month for the entire set of properties that meet my filters and criteria here. I could download it in a CSV, or I can create a report that will send this to me once a week, once a month, whatever time frame I want, right into my inbox, so I could download that or pull it in via API. It makes it really, really easy to analyze data at a portfolio level, or to screen which markets you want to go into, to do investment analysis at scale. A lot of groups are now using this. It's something we released pretty recently, but a lot of groups are using it to prospect for acquisition deals, or to analyze portfolio level performance across all of their assets. So this all available via API as well. It's just a different product called the Query Builder here. We encourage people to check it out. Okay, that really is all I've got for today. So really appreciate everyone jumping on. I see one other question. Is the data still vast with smaller cities? I'll answer yes, it is. We've tested this quite a bit. So you go into tertiary markets, you go into rural areas, as long as they have rental housing, we go all the way down to single family rental. 5 million properties. There aren't 5 million institutional 100+ unit properties in the market. But if you go all the way down to single family rental, we're tracking that too. And a lot of times that's going to be the bulk of what's shown in a tertiary market. So I encourage everyone to check out the free trial. Go to our website. You see it right here, HelloData.ai in my background. You can see right up there. Great sales solution, HelloData.ai. Head to the website, check out the free trial. Or if you're a Grace Hill or HelloData customer, and you want to dig in on any of these things in more detail, I'm happy to set up a call. Feel free to reach out. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate your time, and look forward to working with you. Take care.